It's Friday. It's Catholic Answers Live. I'm Cy Kellett, your host. And since it's Friday, of course, we have a great show for you. That's just how Darren rolls around here. He always makes a great show happen on Friday. Second hour, Tim Staples will be here, but in a special capacity, he will be answering only questions from children. If you are a child, if you have a child, 888-31-TRUTH is the number. Maybe dial towards the end of this hour, the beginning of the next hour, and get in that queue. And you can ask any question you want so long as you're a child. Don't have to be a Catholic child. Don't have to not be a Catholic child. Any child at all, but you got to be a child to ask him a question. And we'll be giving away some books and stuff the second hour. This hour, well, how shall we put this? There are a lot of quite obvious and public problems in the Catholic Church right now. And one of the things that I have noticed, I don't know if you have noticed this pattern, the problem is men. But not just predominantly, virtually exclusively, the problem is men. And that problem, you might say, well, that's because priests are men, the problems are with priests and all that, but that's not in fact the case. The problems in the church go far beyond that, and you could probably pinpoint that one of the major things that we're seeing is a failure of Catholic manhood, a failure of Catholic men to live as they were called in this late modern age, in this early 21st century. And I'm sure there are many reasons for that, and our guest today is here to help us discuss that, but more importantly, to talk about firing up male spirituality, helping men to recover or to experience the kind of spirituality that Christ has in mind for them. The program we will be discussing is Exodus 90, and one of its founders is James. Oh my goodness. What just happened to my brain? James Baxter. Sorry, I lost my notes.
Hey,
James,
no problem.
James, how are you?
Hey, so well, Cy. Thanks for having me on. It's a joy to be with you and to be here with all your listeners.
Okay, so first of all, before we get in, and if you'd like to talk with James about this, maybe men's spirituality, maybe you're a mom or a wife and you'd like to talk about it for your sons or husband, 888-318-7884. Maybe you're a man or expect soon to be a man, 888-318-7884, the number. We're happy to take your calls today. So first of all, let's start with what is this Exodus 90 of which we speak, James?
Yeah, sure thing. So Exodus 90 is a 90-day spiritual exercise for men. It emerged as a formation program in a seminary on the East Coast a number of years ago, and about 4 years ago, I committed to really sharing this experience with other men, looking for a renewal in their faith. So it's a 90-day spiritual exercise for men. It's composed of prayer, walking through the book of Exodus, a pretty intense penitential regimen, but it's done in small groups. So you're not doing it alone. You've got the support of a brotherhood. And all of those things kind of make up what we call Exodus 90, a 90-day spiritual exercise for men.
So when I think of spiritual exercise, I think of Ignatius of Loyola and his 30 days of the exercises. Is that what you think of when you use a term like that?
That is what we think of, and we use the term very intentionally. So I had the privilege many years ago of going through the full 30-day silent retreat. And obviously, those that spiritual exercise, Ignatius made available to others within the hustle and bustle of their lives. With I think it's annotation 8, if I'm correct. And so, one of the things that's so beautiful about Exodus 90 is, though it started in a seminary, it's applicable to you wherever you are. Whether you're a priest, whether you're a layman, whether you're on fire for your faith or really not so much and just kind of looking for something else, it's adaptable to your experience. So most men and most men's ministry kind of revolves around an event model, whether that's a retreat or whether that's a conference, but similarly to how Ignatius crafted those exercises to be kind of adjustable to contemporary life for them, so too with Exodus 90. It's not something you have to go somewhere else to do, but it's a conversion over an extended period of time that you can experience within the ups and downs, hustle and bustle of your life.
And I notice as I look, and I don't know if we gave the website yet, but the website for this really tremendous new program, Exodus 90, is just that, exodus90.com. I noticed that a great deal of the verbiage there refers to freedom. What is the connection between these 90 days of spiritual exercises and freedom?
Right. Sure. So for us in life today, whether we're stuck in addictions to explicit sin like pornography or not, our modern comforts really have a way of just taking men away from intentionality and focus. All of a sudden, we're wasting away our lives on Netflix and for younger guys, video games and social media platforms, maybe for everybody. But all of these things just kind of, I don't know, they have a way of just distracting us, kind of lulling us to sleep, if you will. And what's so interesting is, the women in our lives notice that. They know when their man is not fully alive, when he's not fully himself, when he's not fully leading their family. As, parishioners of parishes, we know when our priests aren't at their best, when they're not preparing their homilies and when they're distracted in the confessional. So all of these things we say are forms of bondage, and so what we are suggesting here with Exodus is that all of us have idols, and those idols are unfortunately custom crafted for us. But all of them prevent us from an intimacy with Jesus Christ and kind of prevent us from the high calling that he has for each of us. And so when we talk about freedom, it's not just we're not obviously using that in a way of like license or just doing whatever you want, but really returning us to a place where we are free to respond to Christ's summons. We've cast aside our idols. We've gotten rid of our distractions, our addictions, and our loneliness, and through prayer and penance and community, really returned ourselves to a place where we can know Christ, we can respond to him, and we can answer the concrete needs that our community faces.
A word that I don't like that you have used a few times because it implies all kinds of suffering is asceticism. Come on, man. Really? You're going to hit me with asceticism? Why would you say asceticism, which the church has practiced from its very beginnings? So why is this important for men's holiness? Yeah,
for sure. So I'm happy you can pronounce the word, because most people when they'll call us up or ask us about Exodus 90 are like, what is that word? Where does that even come from?
Oh, yeah.
Like, shoot, man, read the catechism. It's like all over it.
Yeah.
So asceticism, at the Greek origin, it relates to exercise, and discipline implies self-mastery. So really what we're doing here with Exodus 90 and what the founder, Father Dorr, did for his young men in the seminary was return them to the largely lost ascetical tradition of the Desert Fathers of the 3rd and 4th centuries of the Church. And so we're not talking about, wearing hair shirts and beating our backs or anything like that.
Okay.
We're just talking about putting ourselves in a position where we're saying no to ourselves a lot during the 90-day experience. So if you would, maybe I'll list off the practices during Exodus 90. The first, which most people hate the most, are, your short, cold showers each morning.
We just have to say no to short, cold showers? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you commit to taking cold showers.
I was on board for a second there. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. You take practice regular and intense exercise. Engaging the whole body is really important to us. So, unlike most Bible studies or other kind of programming, again, this emerges as a formation experience, and a big part of priestly formation is engaging the whole man, body, mind, soul, and that is exactly what Exodus 90 does. There's no part of your life that really goes untouched. We encourage men to get sleep. We live in a sleep-deprived culture, so we encourage men to sleep at least 7 hours. You abstain from alcohol, desserts, sweets, eating between meals, soda and sweetened drinks, television, movies, televised sports, video games, non-essential material purchases. So kind of, preventing guys from just solving their, medicating their problems with the buy now with one click.
Yeah.
Amazon button. You only listen to music that lifts your soul to God. And we use our computers and mobile devices really only for essential communication or for your work or school obligations. And then on Wednesdays and Fridays, we treat them as serious fast days. So just as the church asks us to fast on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday, abstaining from meat, our one full meal and our two smaller meals, we do that during every Wednesday and every Friday of Exodus 90. So now that can sound like a lot and can sound like a burden. The truth is that most men, especially as they enter into the experience, find it all deeply freeing. All of these things that fill our lives, it's kind of like our garage, it just fills with all this stuff, and after a period of time, you're like, why is this even still here? I haven't seen this in years. And that's true of our daily lives as well, and most people talk about how busy they are, right? How many things they have brewing. I think that's probably true for mothers raising children, but I think for the rest of us, and specifically for men, I think if we were a little more honest with ourselves, we would find that there's plenty of time for prayer, but we have filled that up with distractions.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about asceticism, we talk about saying no to a lot of our comforts so that we can say yes to the Lord in our contemplative life, and to our brothers that you do this together with in your fraternity.
It's interesting to me how much of the asceticism that you recommend would have just been normal life at a certain point. I mean, because our asceticism has to include a separation from, as you said, like the Netflix and the Amazon and all the video. But I mean, there's probably a million things. I don't even know what they are, but you know what I'm talking about. The plugged inness. Yeah. It's almost like we have a new dimension for idleness that requires a new kind of asceticism.
Yeah, so that's so interesting you say it that way, because it's true. I mean, this is the plight of modern man, and it was not true for much of human history and certainly church history. So one of my favorite authors is Romano Guardini, and I'd recommend everybody look him up. In my mind, he's one of the most kind of untapped or underrated fathers of the Second Vatican Council, along with Jean Danielou. And in a book he wrote called The End of the Modern World, he talks about how for those Christians who are really gonna live the faith amidst a society that is becoming more and more post-Christian, and then obsessed with comfort, as in many ways that's the end and goal of most corporations and technology generally.
Right.
It's so important to return to asceticism as a value. And I'll never forget when I had been working on Exodus 90 for a few years before I read that passage in the book, and I was like, yeah, that is why we are doing what we're doing here. We are saying no. We are imposing, in a way, discipline in our lives, to regain ourselves, to possess ourselves once more, for our vocations and the ways that Christ calls us.
James Baxter is our guest. If you'd like to speak with James about developing men's spirituality, especially in the light of the new program, the new 90-day spiritual exercise for men called Exodus 90 that is gaining so much attention, give us a call, 888-318-7884. Men and women, anybody's welcome to call, 888-318-7884. January is Pro-Life Month, and Catholic Answers wants to give you as much access to pro-life materials as we can. So all of our pro-life stuff, whether it's a pro-life book like Trent Horn and Layla Miller's book Made This Way, or a DVD or a CD or a download or whatever, it's all $5. So you just go to the $5 pro-life category at shop.catholic.com all month and get your $5 pro-life materials.
Catholic Answers Live. Are you a coffee drinker? If so, you can now enjoy a coffee roasted to perfection by the Carmelite monks of Wyoming. Delicious Mystic Monk coffee is roasted and prepared by monks in a hidden cloistered monastery and is available in over 25 varieties. All Mystic Monk coffees are works of perfection and labors of love. For more information on how to purchase Mystic Monk coffee, visit mysticmonkcoffee.com. That's mysticmonkcoffee.com.
He was a doctor of the church and one of the most famous saints of all time.
Matthew Bunson and the Doctors of the Church.
St. Augustine is honored for his immense contributions to theology, but he balanced his genius with humility. He once declared, "It was pride that changed angels into devils. It is humility that makes men as angels." He died in 461.
For more about the Doctors of the Church, visit doctorsofthechurch.com.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. We're discussing men's spirituality, particularly asceticism for men. It all comes in the context of the fact that men are in trouble. It may well be that women are too, but in the Catholic Church, we're seeing all kinds of public evidence of that. Men who are addicted, as our guest James Baxter was saying earlier, to all kinds of things. And it certainly seems that pornography, internet pornography, is one of the main problems that we're facing, and it's a kind of one of those things that becomes more and more degrading the more someone is drawn into it, and also it's so full of shame. People are it's hard to ask for help, all that kind of thing. But also I say also, but it's part of the same picture. Men who are disconnected from women, men who are disconnected from other men. We have so many ways to be entertained, or at least distracted, without actually making human contact with others, without doing those things that make a man's life full, like serving others, particularly a wife and children, all that kind of thing. So I think you might agree with me. We are in tough shape right now, and the way that this has hit men needs to be addressed, which is exactly what our guest has done with the program Exodus 90, which you can check out at exodus90.com, exodus90.com. Now, how has this been received? It started as a seminary program to help men. You've expanded it out. What are people saying about it, and how is it being received, and say by priests and bishops and men who might be involved in ministry, and what are they saying?
Yeah, sure. So this whole thing emerged, as you said, from a seminary over the course of years, right? So a lot of church programming is kind of whiteboarded, like there's some problem, and we're going to solve it.
Yeah.
What's so interesting about this is that it's just a priest, a friend of mine, who realized his guys were in tough shape, and instead of whiteboarding stuff, they just started figuring things out together. They thought that the story of Exodus was a powerful image for them, and he knew that the only way to get to a greater sense of freedom and be able to make their commitments in ordination was through prayer and asceticism and community. So when he asked the question that was basically this, which is, if the seminarians are in this kind of state, what about men who don't have the luxury of a formation house?
Right.
And obviously the need is as great or greater there. And so anyway, in our first year when we released Exodus 90, we had 750 men join up. And to be honest with you, Si, we didn't really think very much of it. I was going to go on my way, with my life, frankly. And I thought I had done my favor, for my friend, and that was it. But I got a call from some guys in Texas who did Exodus, committed to it seriously, and it absolutely changed them. And then we just started getting all of these email contacts and phone calls of similar stories, guys breaking decades of addiction to pornography, others who just felt way more present to their wives and children, who were not just endlessly watching sports as though that's a healthy thing. And it just kept happening. And so 90 days to Easter 2017, so not last year but the year before, we grew like 250% in 2 days. And I was like, wow, like what is going on here? And the truth is that there's just a profound multiplication effect that happens with Exodus 90. You go through it, it's powerful. You enter into greater intimacy with Christ, you rid yourself of your distractions, and you have a new brotherhood, most significantly. And all of those things are just life-giving. And because of that, you have to tell people about it. And so we're doubling right now at about every 9 months, which is really exciting to us. And over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, Exodus 90 as a spiritual exercise in the church is growing tremendously. We are super excited because 90 days to Easter is coming up here in just under 10 days. So January 21st is our start date. And the truth is we have never had more kind of demand and interest in this and how this can serve the church right now. So we do have actually an archbishop with a group of bishops making this exercise together in reparation for the sins of the church.
Wow.
And as they really kind of contemplate how to move forward in leadership. We have priests. We have about 10 to 15 parishes a day right now reaching out, asking how they can implement Exodus 90 at the parish level. And the truth is we got a lot of normal dudes, like you and me, who are just looking for something greater in their lives, who are looking for more. It's been really humbling to me that, a project, a small project at one point is really being looked at as a concrete roadmap through some of the struggles and confusion of the abuse crisis in the church and some of the ways our leaders have really failed to lead us and to tell the truth and to bring justice. So that is all of the attention that's kind of focused on Exodus 90 right now.
888-318-7884 is our number. We're discussing with James Baxter, one of the founders of Exodus 90, male spirituality and what is needed now for men to reclaim the fullness of the gift of their Catholic faith, not the burden, the gift of their Catholic faith. And if you'd like to get in on that conversation, we welcome you. 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884. Now, for us older, I'm in my 50s, so I'm not really older. I'm just, oldish, I guess, would be the. I don't know how the categories break down, but okay. So we grew up on television and all that stuff, and I do think it had its effects on us. But younger men have grown up on the internet. They've grown up on cable television and hundreds of networks. Many have probably had all kinds of impressions placed on them about what manhood is and how to live their manhood that didn't come from their dad or their church or their coaches or whatever, but came from people who were making media and often kind of lousy media. So do you see a felt need among that generation? Let's say people in their 20s and 30s for something that challenges them and gives them direction in living out their manhood?
Yeah, for sure. There is, I'm glad you even kind of speak to the gap, because in some ways I think it can be a little challenging to really understand the technological framework in which young people grow up today. And so for us, these things are normal parts of relating to life. And it's so easy for them to cease to be tools and can become all-consuming. And during Exodus 90, we don't act like most men can throw away technology forever. The truth is that work and school don't really allow for that today. But we just try to help our guys remember, what is this stuff for? It's not for wasting away our lives on. And so we really try to kind of return technology to its place as a tool, and really try to guard against allowing it to consume our attention. And so one of the things we're really excited about is almost 70% of the men through Exodus 90 are in their 20s and 30s. And that is an absolute anomaly for most men's ministries, which continue to suffer from aging demographics. And I think, a part of that is the challenge of the exercise a lot of that as well is the community component. Guys thirst for relationships. And the truth is that the difficult thing about that for men is, unlike with women who can much more easy, have an easier time of relating to each other, building relationships, talking about things. Men need tasks. Men need actions. They need things to go do, and then they find themselves secondarily and reflexively in brotherhood. And that's the beautiful thing about Exodus 90. It's a challenge. It's a task. It's very concrete. There's a structure. And what you're left with is a community, and young men are thirsting for that. And between those couple of things and the very way we go about our work, that's why it's attracting young men today.
Well, you can hear that music. We got to take a break. James Baxter, one of the founders of Exodus 90, which you can find at exodus90.com. We're talking about developing men spiritually in an age which is pretty much nothing but an assault on the spiritual and moral development of men. More of that after this. 888-318-7884, the number.
Catch Catholic Answers live anytime at Catholic.com.
Is the church wrong on contraception? In a culture that worships the pursuit of sexual pleasure, the Catholic Church's teaching on contraception can seem archaic and unintelligible. Its critics say it's outdated, theologically unfounded, and even harmful. And even faithful Catholics can have difficulty explaining this moral teaching. Catholic Answers is out to change all of that. That's why we've just released Trent Horn's dynamic new DVD, The Case Against Contraception. Using scripture, papal and magisterial teachings, natural law, and new insights provided by social science and medicine, Trent puts forward a compelling case for Catholic teachings with his trademark charity and persuasive graciousness. Be prepared to give a defense. Order your copy of The Case Against Contraception today by calling 1-888-291-8000, logging on to the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
A generation ago, Christian parents didn't have to worry about how to explain transgenderism to their 9-year-old children or help their teenager deal with mockery at school for believing in traditional marriage. But today, as our culture decays, we have to know how to talk to our children about these issues. In Made This Way, How to Prepare Kids to Face Today's Tough Moral Issues, Layla Miller and Trent Horn give parents the crucial tools and techniques to form children with the understanding they need, appropriate to their age and maturity level to meet the world's challenges. If we're not teaching our children how to understand tough moral issues, then the world will. Read Made This Way and learn how to give your kids a firm foundation on which to build a life of moral clarity and happiness. Order your copy of Made This Way today by calling 1-888-291-8000 or logging onto the shop at Catholic.com.
Hi, it's Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. Get your morning cup of coffee for your soul when I join Gloria Purvis and the Morning Glory team starting Monday, January 14th. Now let's return to Catholic Answers Live.
Hey, I didn't get to say this yesterday because of some technical problems, but we'd really like to congratulate our friends at Spirit Catholic Radio, now celebrating their 20th anniversary. Spirit Catholic Radio is based in Omaha. It serves most of Nebraska, hits thousands of people in Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, South Dakota. 15 radio signals. They were the 9th Catholic station in the U.S. and the first one to stream their programming on the web. So congratulations to everybody at Spirit Catholic Radio. And not just congratulations, but many, many thanks for all you do there, Jim and Bruce and all the great team. If you want to find out about Spirit Catholic Radio, guess what? You can Google it. It's there online. They were the first to be on the web. I am Cy Kellett, your host. We are talking about men's spirituality and bringing men to the fullness of the gift that's been given to us in Jesus Christ in this faith of ours. James Baxter is our guest. And James, a bunch of people want to talk to you, so shall we go to phones?
Hey, sounds great.
All right. Mark in Indianapolis, listening to EWTN Sirius Satellite Radio Channel 130. You are up first today. Mark, your question for James Baxter.
Good evening, gentlemen. I didn't really have a question. I just wanted to make a comment that we went through Exodus 90 last year, and it truly is, transforming.
Wow.
I mean, the spiritual connection that you establish with Christ and the disciplines just really change your life. But one of the things that I did was my wife participated with me, because it has to be somewhat of a household thing, because it's difficult if you're in a house, with a wife and kids and you're the only one on Exodus. And it's definitely not for kids, right? But my wife and I went through it together, and it strengthened our marriage tremendously. Our communication, our prayer life together. We're excited to do it again this year. So I just wanted to make that comment for the guys out there that, you can include your wife. And if your wife is willing to do it, it truly strengthens a marriage.
We're just going to need to collect the registration fee for your wife now, Mark. So we weren't. No, I'm just kidding. I bet you,
Mark. Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate that comment.
Yeah, when you say we did it, what was it in your parish, or what was the group?
It was seven of my brothers in Christ in our parish participated together, and our bond is as strong as ever. We had each other's back when one of us was weak, the other one was lifting us up, and so on and so forth. We exercised together, we prayed together, we checked in on each other. We kept, we held each other accountable, which was really important. So yeah, I mean, those guys and I are still just have a really strong bond, and we're excited to do it again this year.
Mark, thank you. Thank you very, very much. That's exciting, isn't it? You hear that a lot, don't you, James?
We sure do, and it's super humbling, to be honest with you. We were just at the Seek conference, the Focus conference in Indianapolis, and it was just so beautiful because Exodus is very popular among Focus missionaries on campuses across the country. And it was just so powerful to encounter all these students and even priests. There's a vocations director that's coming before my face, another older priest in my mind as well. It really is what it says it is. And because of that, men are so profoundly loyal to it, and they're our greatest ambassadors and advocates. So he Mark spoke to a great point here, which is super important for married men. And I know this even better this time around. I just got married 6 months ago.
Oh, congratulations.
But appreciate it. Yeah, I have a beautiful wife. Her name is Colleen. And she, so we're preparing for Exodus ourselves, and we kind of had a little family meeting yesterday just about, what this will entail for some ways, how we're going to spend our time and all of that. And it's super important for men to make sure that they present to their wives what this entails. It sounds like Mark's wife was super on board and committed, and that's really exciting. That's not always the case. And so it takes some patience. It takes some dialogue, really sharing why you want this right now. And, especially if you have an intention that makes you a better husband, a better father, most wives are going to be okay with that. And so what we see is maybe if there's hesitation about how it will affect the family at the beginning, we do see wives who enter into the experience because it does affect them too. And by the end of it, they're like, we hear this all the time. I like you way better now than 90 days ago.
Wow.
And that's a really profound and humbling thing to hear time and time again.
Ben in New Hampshire, listening on 102.7 Hope FM. You are up next. Your question, Ben, for James Baxter.
Hello, gentlemen. How are we doing?
Very well, Ben.
Hey, Ben. Good evening.
So I don't really have a question. I'm just calling to say thank you very much for doing this. I'm a about 10-year-old convert. I was blessed enough to marry a cradle Catholic who refused to go to Baptist services with me. And so I ended up falling in love with the church. And lately I've been looking to try to go deeper, but I don't. A whole lot of reasons, I guess. Work life, family life, things just get in the way. Everything I've tried, and then I read about this, and it really seems to cut the fit to everything that's in my way. Like I can do this, It just screamed out at me. I saw the Facebook ad, and off I was going. I texted my best friend
James?
Yeah, Ben, absolutely. No, it's be assured of my prayers as you're getting ready and making your way through the experience. The thing I'd say maybe at the outset is just to really have a great reason for this and spend some time in prayer beforehand. Like, what are you looking for? What do you want Christ to do? And, make sure he's inviting you to. Exodus is really moving today. It's becoming more and more, known and popular. I had a priest friend of mine, actually, who told me, he lives so I'm from Indiana. I'm based here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, but he's out in Pueblo, Colorado, and he's like, James, this thing is moving. I was invited by 3 different people to join them for Exodus 90. And I was like, wow, that's really something. That's amazing. And the thing I tell people today is just make sure you have that why. Make sure you have that reason, and make sure that's been prayed through, because the first couple weeks are really exciting. And then you have been through a Lent, and you have another one to go. And if you don't have a great reason, and if you haven't felt called into it, you're not going to keep going. And it's too hard. And so I would just really encourage you, Ben, to have that why, to have that reason, and to know that if you commit to it, Christ will bless you, just like he's blessed Mark, who was just on the phone with us.
Okay, Ben?
Yeah, man, I've got the reason. It's a needed, massive thing, but yeah.
Well, God bless you, brother. That's beautiful. God bless you, and thank you for the call. 888-318-7884 is the number. 888-318-7884. I'm going to guess there's some men listening who are not convinced that asceticism is really needed, that men need ascetical practice in their life. So to the skeptical man who says, I don't know if I need that. I don't know if I need to give things up. I don't know if I need to get away from my phone or all. What do you say to that person, James?
Yeah, to that person, I would just say, look at the church today. Look at something bigger than yourself. Even if you think you're in a good place, which I would challenge immediately, because we can all be better than we are. I would say look at the church, which is so clearly broken and bruised, and really looking for a direction. And I would say, if you're skeptical whether or not you need it, it's pretty obvious that the church needs it right now. And you should consider offering this as a spiritual sacrifice to the Lord for the church. I guess I would say it's bigger than you. And in time, through the spiritual exercise, you'll realize that, yeah, there's more here than you thought. Very many men enter Exodus 90 for one reason, and that motivates them, that guides them. And then by the end, they realize, a whole new reason. I had no idea how, addicted I was to this, or how dependent I was to this, or that this thing was in the way of my intimacy with Christ. And if that doesn't come to mind, whatever that thing is, whatever that relationship is, I would say one thing's apparent. The church is in need. And here's a way you can offer a sacrifice to the Lord on her behalf.
Our guest is James Baxter. Our topic is men's spirituality. I have to say an unexpected response, James, but it's something that seems to me very well phrased for men, especially in this age of comfort. It's not all about you.
Yeah, that's right. And it's so easy in time to just develop habits that are so self-referential.
Yeah.
And, without saying no, without penance, without a solid contemplative life, without a community, it's easy to just become complacent and sit on the sidelines. And the truth is that we all have a part to play in salvation history, and all those parts are significant. And, it's bigger than you.
James Baxter is our guest. If you're a man, if you know a man, if you are intending on becoming a man, give us a call if you have questions about this male spiritual life and what the Catholic Church offers in that regard. 888-318-7884. 888-318-7884. We've still got that free ebook available for you throughout Pro-Life Month. It's called Pro-Life Answers for a Brave New World. Visit the Catholic Answers Facebook page now and get your free copy of Pro-Life Answers for a Brave New World.
It's all about the truth. Catholic Answers Live.
You know what Catholic radio is? It's training for the troops. It's a inter-aural of the ear boot camp. The folks who listen, who grow in their faith, grow in charity, grow in all the virtues, they then go out and exert an influence far beyond just themselves. Catholic radio has an exponential effect for bringing people deeper into the faith.
Dr. Ray Guarendi thinks Catholic radio is important. So should you.
Do you love sharing the gospel and want to learn to be more effective? Join the St. Paul Street Evangelization online School of Evangelization. You will learn to build bridges of trust and make disciples by befriending strangers, proclaiming the gospel, inviting people to the church, and praying with others. We'll ask for a pledge of financial support, but if you are unable to give, we'll give you a membership at no cost. Find out more and get involved today at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I'm Cy Kellett, your host. Hey, don't forget, next hour is a full hour of a kid show. If you have a question and you are a kid, if there's something you'd like to know about the Catholic Church, if it's something you'd like to know about Jesus or the Bible, maybe something you'd like to know about angels or how to know what's good and what's bad, all those questions are perfectly welcome if you're a kid next hour. And Tim Staples, one of the world's great apologists, will be here to answer the question. We'll see if he's one of the world's great apologists to kids. That's what it's an experiment. We're going to find out. That number, 888-318-7884. So get ready to start dialing it maybe 5 or 10 minutes from now, and we'll get you on the air with Tim. And you can ask your question, 888-318-7884. Let us go then to Erica in Lincoln, Nebraska, listening on Spirit Catholic Radio, the wonderful and 20-year-old Spirit Catholic Radio now. Erica, your question for James Baxter.
Hi, I have two questions. So first of all, how do I encourage the men in my life to do Exodus 90? And second, if they don't necessarily have like a large group or, like a group of guy friends to do it with, what would you recommend for that? And I'm going to hang up and listen on the radio because my phone cuts in and out.
Awesome.
Okay. Erica, thank you.
Yeah. So as far as, what can you do to invite friends, I think was the first. And then what about if there's not enough guys? Is that the two questions, I think? So,
yeah.
So, honestly, we've got a really, this makes it easy, and I don't mean to be a cop-out with this, but, we've got a pretty strong digital presence for Exodus 90 because we know that's where people are. And what's funny is we like to say this. We use the Matrix to get people out of the Matrix. Anyway, it's super easy to share one of our articles, one of our posts, just send it to a man in your life and see what he thinks. Most find the work we're doing at the very least intriguing. Maybe they won't take us up on it this year or for this round of Exodus, but that can be one easy way. So I'd say that. As far as whether or not, they have a big group, we definitely encourage groups to be about 5 men or so. And we say that because, and Mark, our first caller, referred to this, Erica, but the process is long. And though, there are ups and downs, and because of that, one of the most powerful things is when you go to your fraternity meeting each week, which are critical to this really working as it should. Even if you're not doing well, you see God doing something in your brother. Like even when you don't see him doing something in you, you see that, and that's a motivation to keep going. So it's important to have, several men in this. We really don't like it to be done in pairs. Really closer to 5 is ideal because it provides, more perspectives, more faces, and that can be really encouraging. So, we frequently get this email, and we have for years. I'm here. Can you connect me with other guys? We can't yet do that. That's something we're exploring to tackle in the future. But what we always say is this, is it's so important to get outside your shell and to make invitations, especially faith invitations, whether it's Exodus or something else. For men like concrete things. Men don't like, hey, let's go get coffee infinitely for the next, the rest of our lives and talk about faith. It's important to faith share. Don't get me wrong here. But men, I don't know, there's something can kind of rub us the wrong way about that. But here's a concrete 90-day invitation to them. It can be understood. You can wrap your hands around it. Like, all right, I'm going to make this commitment. And like I said, you can form new brotherhoods. So whether or not you have friends in mind for this, you might be surprised when you invite guys in that they're craving something else in their faith. And they're also craving new relationships. But they need an excuse. They need a reason. Exodus 90 can be a great reason to form those new brotherhoods. I think I'm continually surprised at how men who seem to have it all together are profoundly lonely and are accountable to no one, frankly. And it's very easy to do service in the church and participate in all kinds of things and be accountable to nobody. And that is not possible with Exodus 90. You will know the men in your group, and they will know you, and that is free.
Erica, thank you very, very much. I hope that was helpful to you. Let us go now to Patrick in Jasper, Indiana, listening on 93.1 FM. Patrick, your question for James Baxter.
Excuse me?
Hi, Patrick. You're on the air on Catholic Answers Live.
Oh, great. Hey, well, first of all, thank you so much. How you doing?
Really good, Patrick. Thank you for asking. Did you have a question for James Baxter?
I do. We have the same initials, me and him. James Patrick Bruce here. My question for James, and thank you so much again, is do you truly love what you do, and how did you know, can you maybe briefly, or be as elaborative as possible, how did you know that this was your calling to do what you do for a living? I'm just curious.
Hey, that's a profoundly personal and a great question. Wasn't expecting that, so thanks, Patrick. Well, to be honest with you, I didn't expect this to take off like it did at all. I had discerned out of the seminary, actually not very, far away from Jasper, Indiana, at St. Meinrad Archabbey in southern Indiana. And, honestly, I was kind of looking for, what's next in my life. I intended to go to business school and be on my way and get a normal job and hopefully live a respectable, faithful life. When a priest sent me a Word document with Exodus written on the top of it, that's it. And he said, hey, been doing this for a couple of years. This is, read these testimonials. There's other guys out there who need this. And I just got to thinking, like, all right, what if we shared this? Now, I had never intended us to have, in our first 3 years, 7,500 men through Exodus 90. I never thought that it would, to be honest with you and all of our listeners, I think we're going to welcome at least another 7,500 men into this in the next 10 days, likely more. And I never expected that to happen. But the truth is, this is meeting a profound need, and that brings me a meaning and a satisfaction that it's honestly, I'm pumped to wake up in the morning. It's hard sometimes to go to bed. And because this is doing profound things in men's lives. And that is what's so rewarding to me. Now, at the beginning, when we had very little to show for this, like I said, I started with a Word document. I'm not the spiritual guru behind this. I'm just the one with a team who've helped to make it happen. We didn't have a lot to show for it for a long time. And it was only through prayer that I kept to it. Christ continued to tell me the impact of this is in the future. And when I tried to get distracted and tried to go do more normal things, he just wouldn't let me. He made that very, very clear to me. And so it was just like a series of I don't want to call them religious experiences because I'm no mystic, but it was just, hey, this is a real thing. You need to stay focused on this. So between the meaning, meeting men and what this is doing for them gives me, and then what Christ, how he affirms me and, moving forward in my own spiritual life, those are the reasons why I'm very passionate about this and why I love this so much and why I believe in this so much, and why I've, given this everything I've got over the last 4 years.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm going to keep moving. I want to try to get to every caller here before we go. Let's go to Brian in Keller, Texas, listening on Guadalupe Radio. Brian, your question for James Baxter.
Hey, James and Cy. Thanks for having me on here. Much like everybody else, I think that's calling in is more of a comment. And God bless you, brother, for doing what you did with this program. We're my brothers and I, gentlemen here in the Keller area, are coming up on our 3-year anniversary of our first. We did it. It actually crossed over Easter. We timed it perfectly to not be able to enjoy, but it's one of those things that we were, looking back, I'd just joined the Troops of St. George a year earlier looking for something for my son and missing the fact that I was in need of going deeper with Christ, Cradle Catholic. And I remember we joke about it to this very day, but the gentleman that really pulled us together was out trying to recruit on a hike at one of our campouts that we were having. And he was going to each of us saying, I only need one more. I only need one more. And he was going to each of us and saying that. And, but I mean, God bless you for pulling it out there and getting it out there to us men. And, everything you're saying is right on. And we just keep going. And there's a group of us here locally that are actually meeting at one of our, brothers as a restaurant here. And we're actually having men meet up on Monday to try to get them and recruit them for joining the program here with you guys for this next go-round.
Yeah, it's beautiful, Brian. Yeah. Hey, thanks so much for that comment. Thanks for taking it seriously, for listening to him on that hike, What can I say? I am pretty surprised, I guess, that most of our calls are comments and affirmations, but, the truth is that it is what it says it is. I've said that many times on this call. And the powerful thing about Exodus is it engages the whole man. It's not just a study. It's not cognitive only. It's profoundly relational. It has a challenge component. I really believe in my heart of hearts, and time has only borne this to be true, that the church is in need of a great renewal, and that this is a spiritual exercise to bring it about. And if more men continue to hit the hard road to freedom, we are going to visibly be in a different state. But that takes a lot of courage, and that takes a lot of people like you, Brian, who are willing to accept, like you did, okay, I might be connecting all of these people. I might be helping and serving my son, but what about me? Where's my brotherhood? Where's my fraternity? And that takes humility.
Brian, thank you very, very much. I imagine the listener who has come across us and says, well, at the end of this, is this just going to be more of that toxic masculinity? I mean, all this manhood stuff. Aren't we kind of over manhood? Like, isn't that, we seem very grumpy about manhood right now. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, some people have asked me before, like, are you trying to form, the Navy SEALs of Catholics? Or are you trying to form, like, macho Catholics?
Yeah.
The answer to that question is, though we've had Navy SEALs through Exodus, that's not what we're doing here. It doesn't leave you with a badge of honor at the end. In fact, it really returns you to your heart. And through Exodus, you experience a lot. And some of that is really challenging. Like when you cut out your medication, and I'm using that in not a literal sense, but when you cut out your distractions and the ways that you get away from reality, it's profound and it's challenging and it's very humbling, when you accept the truth about yourself. And so, for those people who would say, am I building macho Catholic? No, we're just returning men to their hearts and to the reality of themselves. And that's not a cause for pride, but for humility and how dependent we are on God.
James Baxter has been our guest. You can find out all about the program at Exodus90.com. James, thank you so much for taking the hour to tell us about it.
Hey, Cy, it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope everybody joins us for the 21st start date coming up.
Oh, yeah, January 21st. The next one starts. Go to Exodus 90 to find out about it. Next hour, well, in just a few minutes here, Tim Staples will be here to take calls from kids. If you're a kid, if you know a kid that's got a question about the Catholic faith, 888-318-7884.
How do we know Jesus founded a visible, organized church? Is today's Catholic Church the same as the Church of the Apostles and the early Christians? What can I say to someone who claims the medieval church became corrupted by pagan ideas and practices? In 20 Answers, The Church, you'll find smart, solid answers to these questions and many more, helping you to understand how the church Jesus founded is able to carry on through history his mission of teaching and sanctifying his followers. 20 Answers, The Church is part of the 20 Answers series from Catholic Answers, offering hard facts, powerful arguments, and clear explanations of the most important topics facing the church and the world, all in a compact, easy-to-read package. Visit shop.catholic.com today and take a look at this exciting new series from Catholic Answers Press.
With the recent commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the release of Humani Vitae, there have been fresh attacks on Catholic teaching from outside and, unfortunately, inside the Church. That's why Catholic Answers thought it critical to provide a vigorous affirmation of Pope Paul VI's prophetic wisdom with our newest book, Inseparable: 5 Perspectives on Sex, Life, and Love in Defense of Humani Vitae. We asked 5 distinguished contributors to reflect on and defend Humani Vitae from 5 perspectives, each of them compelling, together forming a mosaic of truth. Don't be caught uninformed when the topic comes up among friends, family, and coworkers. Order your copy of Inseparable today by calling 1-888-291-8000 or by visiting the shop at Catholic.com.
A generation ago, Christian parents didn't have to worry about how to explain transgenderism to their 9-year-old children or help their teenager deal with mockery at school for believing in traditional marriage. But today, as our culture decays, we have to know how to talk to our children about these issues. In Made This Way, How to Prepare Kids to Face Today's Tough Moral Issues, Layla Miller and Trent Horn give parents the crucial tools and techniques to form children with the understanding they need, appropriate to their age and maturity level to meet the world's challenges. If we're not teaching our children how to understand tough moral issues, then the world will. Read Made This Way and learn how to give your kids a firm foundation on which to build a life of moral clarity and happiness. Order your copy of Made This Way today by calling 1-888-291-8000 or logging onto the shop at Catholic.com.
Sharing the gospel with family and friends can be challenging. It's especially hard when they won't even hear you out because of all the mental roadblocks they've built up. This is Carlo Broussard, and in my new book, Prepare the Way, my aim is to help you tackle that essential first step to apologetics and evangelization, getting people to listen with an open mind. Even our best witness can bounce right off folks like these if we don't prepare the way first, breaking down barriers and leaving minds and souls free to encounter the truth. I'll give you evidence and arguments and step-by-step strategies based on asking the right questions to help them overcome their obstacles and make a straight path for the Lord. Order your copy of Prepare the Way today by calling 1-888-291-8000, visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Hi, this is Trent Horn, and you've probably heard me explain Catholicism to non-Catholic callers on the radio or engage opponents in formal public debates. I've always hoped these interactions would show people how to graciously defend and share our faith. But they're not enough. That's why I've created a weekly podcast that will help Catholics answer the toughest objections against our faith. Every episode of the Council of Trent will provide listeners with a conversation roadmap that will help them share their faith with anyone. Keep in mind that I hate boring lectures. These podcasts will contain entertaining, informative, and practical explanations of the faith, as well as interviews with the best Catholic writers and speakers in the world today. Visit TrentHornPodcast.com today to find out how you can subscribe to my new podcast. That's TrentHornPodcast.com.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. It's time to have some fun and answer some questions for the younger set. It is Kids Open Forum. Is that what we call it? Is that the right name? Kids Open Forum, Darren? Darren's like, call it whatever you want. Just get kids to call. 888-318-7884 is the number. And answering questions for kids this hour is the Director of Apologetics and Evangelization here at Catholic Answers, the author of many things, including Behold Your Mother, a Biblical and Historical Defense of the Marian Doctrines. Tim Staples, how are you?
I am doing great, man, and excited about this hour.
Yes. Now, have we done this together before? Like, have you answered kids' questions?
No, I have not. This is a first for me. I was here when we did it over Christmas. I brought my kids to try to stump Trent.
That's right. I think one of them might have. I think there was one where it's like, I don't know if Trent's going to make it. But a part of Trent's problem, I think, was he was looking at you while he's giving the answers like, do I still work here? Do I still work here? Like, it might be intimidating for him to have you there while he's answering faith questions from your children. Right. That was a fun day, though.
That really was.
A whole bunch of kids from Catholic Answers came in. Nick's newest baby didn't come in, but why was that, Nick, that your newest baby didn't come? Oh, because the baby's not born yet.
That's right.
So had to be at work with mom or wherever mom was at the time.
But one thing we learned once again is kids say the darndest things.
Once again, the old theory is proved true. 888-318-7884 is the number. If you're of a young age, get permission first before you call. Make sure mom or dad knows you're calling. If you're a little more mature, I don't know if you have permission. If you're 15, 16, you have permission, you can go ahead and call 888-318-7884. We're going to give away some books today, and I don't know which one you're going to get. So if you're thinking about calling, Marie will let you know which book you're going to get, or you might just know when it shows up. We've got Saintly Rhymes from Modern Times by Megan Bausch. She wrote it and she illustrated it. It's from Our Sunday Visitor. That's one of the books we're able to give you if you're a caller today. The Miracle of St. Nicholas by Gloria Whalen, illustrated by Judith Brown, and that is from Bethlehem Books and Ignatius Press together. It's such a good book, it took 2 publishers to publish it. And then we have this I read in, let's say, before the show, the Illustrated Acts of the Apostles for Children from Magnificat and Ignatius Press.
Great.
The Illustrated Acts of the Apostles. I feel like the grown-up Acts of the Apostles should have pictures and maps and everything. I don't know who who are all these people?
That's right.
So this is really good. Yeah. So one of those.
I want to get that for my kids, man.
Do you?
That's great. I don't think we.
Well,
have it.
one of them is going to have to call today. We're not just giving them away because you're Tim Staples'
all right, do you
kid.
hear that? Rose, Luke, Timmy, call.
Somebody dial 888-318-7884.
Catherine, call.
Yeah. But not Mary.
That's right.
Is Mary allowed to call? She's not allowed to dial the phone yet.
Mary's 2, so
yeah.
Actually, Mary will be 2 in 2 days.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
That's our number 7, our youngest.
Wow, that's isn't that great? Because
yes.
that reminds me that when I first came here 2 years ago on January 18th,
yes,
you weren't around very much at first there, and now I remember that.
Yes.
Well, let's start. Are you ready to take calls? Tim
I
Staples?
am looking forward to
You
this.
ready to be
yes.
stumped by 5-year-olds?
Let's do it.
Okay, Mary Christine in Bowie, Maryland, you're first. Are you there with us, Mary Christine?
Yes. Yes.
And how old are you, Mary Christine?
5.
You are 5. We're so happy that you called. What is your question that you would like Tim to answer?
When Jesus grew up, he go to Mass.
Did he go to Mass?
Oh, did Jesus go to Mass when he was, say he was 5, like Mary Christine?
Yes. Well, Mary, that is a great question. And actually, Jesus instituted the Mass on Holy Thursday when he said the first Mass. And at the same time, he ordained the apostles as priests so that they could then go out and say the Mass. So when Jesus was a little boy, the church and the Mass had not been instituted yet. However, what we do know is that Jesus went to synagogue and he went to the temple, because that would be kind of the equivalent of Mass for the people of God before Jesus instituted the Catholic Church. And here's an interesting little tidbit. If you look in your Bible at Luke chapter 4, verse 16, this is a very famous text, Mary, where Jesus stood up in the synagogue and he opened the scroll. He was one of the readers, kind of like when we have readers at the Mass. Jesus scrolled or unrolled the scroll, and he read from Isaiah 61, which was the reading, and that reading was about him. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor, and so forth. And then he said to the people in the synagogue, this day, this scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing. In other words, he declared he was the Messiah, and that's when he began, his ministry to go out and proclaim the truth, and then to establish the church. But here's the cool point. Is verse 16 says he went into the synagogue as was his custom.
That tells us something about
That's
him.
right.
Huh?
He regularly went to the synagogue, and we know that when he was born, Mary and Joseph took him to the temple as well. So we know that Jesus went to temple and he went to the synagogue as a good Jew before the Catholic Church was instituted, and then he instituted the Mass. He said the first Mass. And now for 2,000 years, we don't go to the temple anymore. In fact, the temple doesn't exist anymore. It was destroyed in 70 A.D., but now we go to Mass instead of temple because we have now the church. Does that help, Mary? All right.
Okay, Mary, don't hang up the phone because Marie wants to talk to you. Make sure we get a book to you. Thank you very much, Mary Christine. That was a delightful call.
Yeah.
Amariah is next from Dallas, Texas. Did I pronounce your name correctly, Amariah?
Amaria.
Amaria. It sounds so much better the way you say it. Okay.
Yes.
And how old are you?
8.
You are 8. Your question, what is your question for Tim Staples?
Why won't God just defeat Satan right now?
Oh, my goodness. That's another great question, Amariah. And it is Amariah? Is that right?
Amaria, she said.
Or Amaria.
That's
okay. Amaria, that is a great question. And I think one major reason is that Jesus wants us to defeat the devil. And so what Jesus could defeat the devil right now instantaneously if he wanted to, but rather than do that, he decided to establish the church and to empower you and I through the sacraments to defeat the devil. It's kind of like, if you think about it, your parents' relationship with you or my relationship with my kids. There's a temptation we have, to want to just do everything for our kids,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want my kids to suffer. I'll just do everything for them. But you know what? If your parents do everything for you and never let you do anything on your own, you become a weak person and you're not able to grow and experience your gifts so that you can become a strong person. And so that's kind of why God wants to use us to defeat the devil, because he wants us to grow up and grow strong and defeat the devil by his power working in us. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yes?
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Another awesome question.
And hang on and talk to Marie. Amaria, thank you so much for that. We have to take a quick break, and so we'll let Marie, lots of folks calling, so Marie's going to have a lot of kids to talk to, and then we'll get to all those questions when we come back. Tim, I don't know if you know this, but we're going on a cruise 1 month from today.
No way.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to mention it again because we said a couple times earlier in the week, hey, this is really your last chance. Like, get going. We're leaving in a month. And a bunch of people called the Cruise Authority or went online at the Cruise Authority, and they're coming now. So I wanted to say it again to people.
Right.
Like, we want you to come. We're going to go on a cruise we're going to start in Fort Lauderdale. I accidentally said Orlando the other day, and Chris Check was like, hey, you can't start a cruise in Orlando. That doesn't. Sorry,
that doesn't work.
But we're going to start in Fort Lauderdale. We're going to go all around the southern part of the Caribbean. We're going to visit Mexico, Jamaica, Bahamas. And what are you talking about on the cruise? Tim will be there.
Goodness.
He's going to give a few talks.
I am excited. I'm doing 2 talks. One is going to be, did Jesus have the beatific vision from the moment of his conception? And basically, it's going to be about the glories of Christology and why it's important that we understand who Jesus Christ is.
Amen.
As opposed to how he has been watered down, especially in our modern era, in the name of, we want to make him more palatable. We want to make him more relatable. So we bring him down, and in the in the process of bringing him down, we destroy our Christology as well as our soteriology, which I'm going to show ends up happening as well. But the other talk is going to be on the Blessed Mother, and it really dovetails because it's going to be Mary, the pinnacle of God's creation. So I'm going to show how the same is true for the Blessed Virgin Mary. And it's important we understand this because Mary is the pinnacle of God's creation. He is the perfection of God's grace in the life of a real human person. She is our hope in that sense because we see in her all the promises of God fulfilled. And so when you bring her down, similarly, the same thing happens in the name of, well, she's just like one of us. Well, yeah, in as much as she's a human person just like we are.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the order of grace, my friends, she's greater than all the angels and saints combined. And get ready. We are going to have us a time. And let me tell you, these talks, I've been on many, many cruises. I don't even know the number anymore. I've been on so many, and every single one of them have been life changers, Si.
Yeah.
I mean, I have people to this day that went with me in 2004 on our first Canadian cruise. 2004, that was before I was even at Catholic Answers, who are still friends of mine and contact me today. And we hear testimony after testimony of people whose lives were changed. Even some non-Catholics who came on cruises that ended up Catholic, dragged along by some, okay, I'll go. I mean, we've had a few of those, but we've had just tremendous numbers of Catholics who are set ablaze in their faith.
You still got time. They've got the cabins for us, and we'd love to have you come along. Just go to CatholicAnswersCruise.com, CatholicAnswersCruise.com. Get all the information there and sign up.
Who else
sail in a month.
Who else is speaking?
Oh, well,
Carlo Broussard.
Carlo Broussard is going to give a couple talks. Chris Check is going to give a talk or two. Father Christensen Bear, of course, will be there, and he'll be celebrating Mass with us every day, hearing confessions, that kind of thing. I'm going to give a little talk, and it's going to be about one of the greatest men of his era.
Are you going to keep it a secret?
Well,
Cary Grant.
Not Cary Grant. Pierre Toussaint.
He wouldn't be the greatest man of his era either, by the way.
He was a pretty good actor, though. But,
yes, he was.
Did you know Pierre Toussaint?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and named after the other Toussaint who led the revolt in Haiti. And Pierre Toussaint he's a surprising figure.
Well,
the venerable Pierre Chazan.
Well, I look forward to learning because I just know a bit. I'm sure you know a whole lot more. I'm waiting.
Well, I do, Tim. I know a whole lot more, and I'll be learning
about
a whole
everything.
lot. Yeah, we'll take a quick break. Be right back with more of your calls if you are a child, because it is Kids Open Forum today on Catholic Answers Live. Right after this.
We're glad you're with us. Stick around for more Catholic Answers Live.
Encounter with Dan Demete and Patrick Rice is our new radio show for young adults.
The Holy Spirit is about a new and exciting work in the young church of today. On Encounter, we bring young adults the life-changing testimonies of ordinary people that launch them into lives of extraordinary mission. Their testimonies bring faith and power into the lives of everyone who listens.
Encounter with Dan Demete and Patrick Rice. The Spiritual Awakening continues Saturday night, 8 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Homeschool Connections, an online provider of courses for your Catholic homeschool, is a sponsor of Catholic Answers Live. Homeschool Connections website is homeschoolconnections.com.
Catholic Answers Live is brought to you in part by CatholicSingles.com, the website for Catholics who want to meet others who share their faith and values for faith, fellowship, and love. You can learn more at CatholicSingles.com. Catholic Answers Live thanks CatholicSingles.com for their generous support.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Nick reminded me of what we usually call this hour, Kids Q&A. I've been saying Kids Open Forum, but it's the same basic thing. But Q&A, it's easier to know. Oh, I get to call with a question, and I'm going to get an answer. And if you are a kid, you are very welcome to call 888-318-7884. Check with mom or dad or who's ever responsible for the phone today that it's okay, and then call 888-318-7884. We're giving out books to those who get through, and we'd love to give you one as well. Faith in New Hampshire. Hi, Faith.
Hi.
Whoa.
Faith, I feel like you have called before. Have you called before a few times, Faith?
Yeah.
I am so glad you keep calling. But have we given you all the books we've got? Are we going to have to write a new book so that we got something new for you?
I'm looking for the third Brendan Earp book, but my dad said it won't come out in a couple of years.
Oh, well, we'll probably forget by a couple of years, so we'll give you another book this time. So Marie's got something for you, but I just want to make sure we don't send you the same book twice when you go to all the trouble to call us, Faith. All right, Faith, your question for Tim Staples.
Why do, if babies die as soon as they're born, why do they go straight to heaven?
Well, that is a great question, Faith. And the key for us is to make sure we make a distinction here, Faith. If that baby is baptized, then we know, we have infallible certainty that that baby is going straight to heaven. And the reason is, the only thing that would keep a baby from heaven is original sin, right? Because a baby doesn't have personal sin, because obviously a newborn baby doesn't have the use of its intellect and will, so it can't choose to act contrary to God's will, which is what a sin is. So he or she has no personal sin, but he or she does have original sin. So if that baby is baptized, that baby goes straight to heaven, because there's no obstacle then to keep that baby from heaven. That baby would then have sanctifying grace, would be incorporated into Jesus Christ, and would be given the power of God and the righteousness necessary to go to heaven. Does that make sense, Faith?
Yeah, but what if would the same thing happen to a baby that isn't baptized?
Well, we have reason to hope. Now, here's the difference, Faith. We have the virtue of faith that tells us infallibly certain that a baby that's baptized goes to heaven, right? But if the baby is not baptized, we have reason to hope. In fact, Faith, the Catechism of the Catholic Church tells us that in that case, in paragraph 1261, and I'm sure Faith's going to remember that and tell it to her mom as soon as she gets off the phone. Right, Faith? You tell your mom. Paragraph 1261 in the Catechism says that for babies who die without baptism, you know what we do? We entrust them into the hands of a merciful God who wills all to be saved. And so because of that, we know that God wills the salvation of all. We can trust him and we can have hope. We don't have the same level of certainty because there are possibilities. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, Faith, but there's a theological conclusion that has been reached in our tradition called limbo, which is a place of, perfect natural happiness that is a possibility for those who die with original sin on their souls. But we also have the hope, Faith, that that baby will go to heaven as well. But ultimately, Faith, we trust God, and we know God will do what's right.
Thank you, Faith. It was nice talking with you again.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye, Faith.
I love these voices.
I know. Nathaniel in Illinois, you are next. Nathaniel, what is your question for Tim Staples?
What message is behind the rosary?
Oh, boy. That is a fantastic question, Nathaniel. And really, there's not one message behind the rosary. There are many messages. Now, the rosary, Nathaniel, is a Marian devotion. So a great deal of it focuses on the Blessed Virgin Mary, but always in the context of her relationship with Jesus. So just as we see in the gospel, Nathaniel, Mary always says to us, just like she said to the people at the wedding feast of Cana, do whatever he tells you to do, right? That's the life of Mary. Mary brings us to Jesus. And so all of the mysteries of the rosary, and remember, when we pray the rosary, very importantly, we say all of the prayers and the Our Fathers and the Hail Marys, we're meditating on the mysteries of our faith, right? The sorrowful mysteries, the joyful mysteries, the glorious mysteries, the luminous mysteries, all of these mysteries of the faith. So ultimately, the ultimate message of the rosary is for all of us to enter into the mysteries of our faith so that we can become better Catholics and one day join Jesus and Mary in heaven. That's the ultimate message. Does that help at all?
Yeah.
Nathaniel, I forgot to ask you how old you are. How old are you, Nathaniel?
9.
You're 9. Well, thank you very, very much for calling. Did you talk to Marie already? Is she already going to send you a book, or do you need to still talk to her?
I still need to talk to her.
Okay, so don't hang up, okay? Because Marie's going to come back, but it'll just be a minute, all right?
Okay.
All right, thanks, Nathaniel. He sounded more enthusiastic about talking to you than me. He was like, okay, all right. 888-318-7884 is the number. I want to mention the books again because these publishers give us these books, and they're very generous. Ignatius Press and Magnificat gave us the book, The Illustrated Acts of the Apostles for Children. That's one of the books we're giving away today. The Miracle of St. Nicholas by Gloria Whalen, illustrated by Judith Brown. That is from Bethlehem Books and Ignatius Press. And Saintly Rhymes for Modern Times, written and illustrated by Megan Bausch, and that is from Our Sunday Visitor. One of those books will go to each of our callers today. And we go now to a gentleman by the name of Luke. Hello, Luke. Are you there with us? Hello, Luke.
Yes.
Hi, Luke.
Hey, I recognize that voice.
You've met this Luke before?
I have.
Have you ever met Tim Staples, Luke?
Yes, in fact, I'm Luke Staples, his son.
Oh, you're his son. I see. Okay, Luke.
I know I'm in trouble when this guy calls because I guarantee you his questions are going to be tough. Go ahead, Luke.
Okay, Dad, so here's the question I wanted to give. So would God have sent us the Savior even if God hadn't, even if Adam and Eve hadn't fallen?
Oh, boy. Yes, that is a great question, Luke. And of course, there are disagreements among theologians in the church over this question. This is a matter of speculation, but I can tell you this, Luke, I tend to agree with Francisco Suarez and Duns Scotus on this one, that God would have sent the Savior if Adam and Eve had never fallen. There may be some guys down the hall who wouldn't
disagree,
or at least one guy who wouldn't agree with me on this one. But I do believe, and I'll tell you why, Luke. The Catechism of the Catholic Church tells us as well that God destined man for the glory of heaven and the full divinization that we enjoy if we endure till the end in Jesus Christ, even before the fall. And so I do think there's good reason to believe that God would have been incarnate. And so, Luke, that would be my answer. But again, this is not something that's definitively given to us by the church. There is a whole lot of beautiful theology that has grown out of this tradition, however. That, in Revelation chapter 12, in fact, God revealed, you know this, Luke, because you and I have talked about it, but in Revelation chapter 12, remember, Luke, we have the depiction of Mary, the cosmic woman with the crown of 12 stars on her head, the moon under her feet, and she gives birth to the Messiah in verse 4 and 5, and then to all of us in verse 17. Well, hang on, Luke, through the break, and I'm going to put a bow on this for you to give you my full answer. But I hear the music now, so we got to take a break.
We will take that break. Luke Staples, hang on. Your dad's going to finish the answer. And even if you're not related to Tim, we're taking questions from any kid today. 888-318-7884.
Call now. Catholic Answers Live.
Author Mark McNeil spent years in the Oneness Pentecostal movement, praying in its lively services, zealously spreading its unconventional teachings, and rejecting mainstream Christianity as misguided. Then he left it all behind. All in the Name is the story of a man who believed he was among an elite group of believers who followed the true faith when so many others had strayed. But an inquisitive mind, careful study, and the action of the Holy Spirit finally led Mark out of Oneness Pentecostalism and into the Catholic Church. This is an inspiring conversion story you won't want to miss. It's a faith strengthener for Catholics and an intriguing challenge to those who deny the doctrine of the Trinity. Order your copy of All in the Name today by calling 1-888-291-8000, logging on to the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
With the recent commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the release of Humani Vitae, there have been fresh attacks on Catholic teaching from outside and, unfortunately, inside the Church. That's why Catholic Answers thought it critical to provide a vigorous affirmation of Pope Paul VI's prophetic wisdom with our newest book, Inseparable: 5 Perspectives on Sex, Life, and Love in Defense of Humani Vitae. We asked 5 distinguished contributors to reflect on and defend Humani Vitae from 5 perspectives, each of them compelling, together forming a mosaic of truth. Don't be caught uninformed when the topic comes up among friends, family, and coworkers. Order your copy of Inseparable today by calling 1-888-291-8000 or by visiting the shop at Catholic.com.
Hi, it's Deacon Harold Burke-Sippers. Get your morning cup of coffee for your soul when I join Gloria Purvis and the Morning Glory team starting Monday, January 14th. Now let's return to Catholic Answers Live.
Well, Monday, January 14th is Monday. So that means that Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers and Gloria Purvis will be the new morning team next Monday on Morning Glory. So you should tune in 7 a.m. Eastern time to hear the new team. Those are two very, very fine people. We left your son Tim. Luke.
Luke.
Luke. We had not tied a bow around his question.
Yes.
But let me give out the phone number for other kids. If you are a kid and you have a question about the Catholic faith, if you want to know about the Bible, if you want to know about the saints, you want to know about Jesus or the Holy Spirit or the angels or the archangels or anything at all about the Catholic faith, you can give us a call as long as you are a kid, because it's Kids Q&A today. 888-318-7884 is the number. And all right, back to Luke Staples.
Yes, Luke, are you still there?
Yes.
All right, Lukey. Well, here's the deal. So one reason, and we'll have to leave it at this for time constraints, for this understanding that the second person of the Blessed Trinity would have been incarnate even if Adam and Eve had not fallen, is there is a tradition that says, and it's very reasonable and rooted in Revelation chapter 12, Luke, that says that this revelation that you and I see and we all see in Revelation of this glorious cosmic woman, right, Mary, who gives birth to Jesus and all of us, Mother of God, Mother of the Church, and such, that same vision was given to the angels before there was a material creation. And that was their test, like Adam and Eve's test was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Their test was God revealed to them he was going to become incarnate. That is, the second person of the Blessed Trinity was going to become incarnate. And through that incarnation, and remember, when he became or was to become incarnate, he was going to become man. And man, Luke, has a very inferior nature compared to the nature of the angels. But through the incarnation, when he becomes man, he was going to, by that fact, exalt human nature even above the angels, right? And so when God revealed this to the angels, this was his plan. Well, part of the plan was the angels were going to be what we see in Hebrews chapter 1, verse 14, messenger spirits sent to the heirs of salvation, right? They were going to serve these puny little humans.
Yeah, right.
Well, all of the angels of God rejoiced, or at least 2/3 of them did, except for Lucifer, because Lucifer famously says, and it's actually in sacred scripture in, I think that's Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 20, non serviam, I will not serve. In other words, no, he rejected God's plan. And as a result of that, he was lifted up in his pride and such. I won't stand for this. He led 1/3 of the angels in a revolt. But here's the cool part, Luke. If you look at Revelation chapter 12, it's right after the revelation here of the woman clothed with the sun who's in travail to give birth, that 1/3 of the stars fall from the sky. Where did that come from, right? Well, says Duns Scotus and Francisco Suarez, that it's because we're seeing a revelation that was given all those eons of time ago. And that became the occasion of the fall, the revelation of the incarnation. And who was front and center of this whole plan but the Blessed Virgin Mary? And this is why, Luke, the devil has a particular hatred for the Blessed Virgin Mary. This is why you see in verse 13, for example, after the devil is cast out, what does he do? He seeks after the woman. He wants to destroy her. Why? Because she's going to be the instrument whereby God's plan is going to come into effect. And this is why the devil goes after Israel. He tries to destroy them, right? Egypt and Assyria and Persia and all these empires want to destroy Israel because that's where he's going to come from, or she's going to come from. So down through the centuries, he's searching after the woman. But of course, he can never get her. And after, Jesus is born, and if you look at in Revelation chapter 12, the serpent wants to devour the baby as soon as he's born, but he's protected.
Yeah.
And the woman is protected as well. And so after Jesus and Mary are taken to heaven, now what does the devil do? He seeks to destroy all of her seed. This is what Revelation 12:17 says, all of her seed. Who is that? the church.
Oh, yeah.
Us. So now he seeks to destroy all those, the seed of the woman, Mary, who have the testimony of Jesus and keep his commandments. That's Revelation 12:17. So at any rate, the bottom line is, Luke, that revelation seems to indicate that an
The plan
incarnation
was in motion
before the fall, and so that plan of divinization through incarnation. Now, we don't know what it would have looked like without, because obviously there would have been no cross, there would have been no bloody sacrifice,
Right.
but there was still a need for divinization because, as the Catechism of the Catholic Church tells us, Luke, Adam and Eve were not created in their final state. They were created in what we say in Latin, Luke, in statu viae, which means in a state of journeying, as was the whole creation. It was in a state of journey. It had not yet reached its state of perfection. That was, so this theory says, going to be accomplished through the incarnation. So, Luke, you got an earful there, buddy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does.
All right, we'll talk more about it when I get home.
Luke, we're not going to mail your book to you either. I'm just going to give it to your dad, and
I'll bring it home.
He'll bring it home to you. Thanks, Luke Staples. 888-318-7884 is the number. It is Kids Q&A. If you're a kid and you got a question, any question at all about the Catholic faith, you're welcome to call. Athena in Boise, Idaho is next. Athena, are you there with us?
Yes.
Hi, Athena. How old are you?
6.
You're 6.
Wow.
All right, Athena. Thank you for waiting.
You're getting old, Athena. I'm joking.
You don't feel old yet, though, do you, at 6?
No.
No. Okay, Athena. What's your question that you'd like to ask Tim?
Where and when was the first church built?
Oh.
That is an excellent question. Now, I'm assuming that you're asking the first church built, meaning an actual physical structure. And it is believed that that would have been built in Jordan in about 230 A.D. The church is actually called the Church of St. Georgius. All right? Looks like gorgeous. Right? In about 230 A.D., and it's in Jordan. And there's some debate about that. There may have been some foundations of a couple that may be earlier, but it's roughly about that. It's most commonly thought to be there in Jordan in 230 A.D. Now, but I do need to add this, that we know that the first churches were actually house churches. And we see that right in the book of Acts, in 1 Corinthians. In fact, we see that in 1 Corinthians chapters 10 and 11, especially chapter 11, St. Paul talks about how they were meeting in house churches. But but what we know is they had particular houses that they consecrated as churches. And you know that because in 1 Corinthians 11, he's actually getting mad at the Corinthians because some of them were drinking before church. Can you imagine that? And he says, hey, don't you have houses to eat and drink in? Are you going to desecrate the church of God? So that indicates to us that there were particular houses that were actually consecrated as churches. But again, the first built church, most likely about 230 A.D. Does that help?
Yeah.
All right.
And by 230 A.D., by the way, is about 1,800 years ago.
That's
so that's a
right.
pretty long time ago.
Long time ago.
Okay, Athena?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you
God
very much.
bless
We're
you.
really happy you called.
And you know what? Thank you, Athena, and thank all the callers. You know, it's not easy to call up and ask a call when you know you're on hundreds of radio stations all across the country, and you guys are doing a great job. So get on that phone. If we've still got some time here at 888-318-7884 if you want to get on with good old Tim Staples.
And Athena Marie's already got your address, she told me, so we'll send that book out to you. We go now to Cece in Illinois. Cece, are you there?
Yes.
Did I say your name right, Cece?
What?
Did I say your name right?
Cece?
Yes.
Oh,
All
thank you.
right.
And
Yeah.
how old are you, Cece?
6.
Oh, I'm so happy you called. What is your question?
How do you become a nun?
Oh, that is a really good question. Well, Cece, I have a daughter named Rose who is 10, and she has wanted to be a nun since she was, I think, 7, is when she first said it, and she really wants to be a nun. Well, here's what you do, Cece, and I can tell you what my daughter is doing. She is already preparing right now, but she is a very prayerful girl. She prays a lot. In fact, a lot of times I'll go by her room, Cece, and I'll see her on her knees praying. She has a little kind of like a little shrine in her bedroom that she has, put up, and she likes to kneel there and pray. She's a wonderful girl, and what she has done is she's visited the Trinitarians, and she's visited the Norbertine sisters. And so over time, Cece, you're a little young at 6. What happens is you start to develop kind of a kinship, or you kind of like one particular community. And that's where Rose is now. She's looking at different communities and seeing which one she likes. And then over time, let's say if her desire endures, and we don't know, who knows, Cece, what God is calling Rose to or you to, but if that desire keeps on as it is, after she graduates from high school, she will let it be known to a particular community. Hey, I believe I have a vocation, a calling to be a nun. And then you talk with the Mother Superior or whomever is in charge of like postulants or bringing in new sisters, and then you go through the particular things that you need to in order to prepare to go into that particular community. Now, one community may not be for you. In fact, the community doesn't have to accept everybody that applies either, for various reasons. Maybe after the interview, maybe you go and visit for a while. They may not think you're for them. Sometimes young girls seek several different communities before they find one. But the key is, Cece, that you learn and you grow over time, and you really hear the voice of God in your heart, in your soul, that still small voice, not a loud voice. Hello, Cece, I'm calling you. No, but he just directs you in your heart, and you have that desire. I want to be a sister, like Sister so-and-so and whatnot. And then you build on that, and you grow. And then, like I said, it's a matter of visiting, and then you get invited. And that's the key, is each religious order will, decide, okay, we will invite you to stay. And once you go in, that doesn't mean you're going to be a nun either. There's a time where you become, different orders call it different things. You're a postulant, you're a novice, and you test it out to see whether the religious life is really for you. And so there's a time of testing and growing before you finally, normally there's a time of testing, and then you make first vows and second vows and then final vows and that sort of thing. So it's a long but very beautiful process, Cece, and really that process starts now. And not only in your life, but all the kids that are listening right now, if you're a young boy, you should be asking God, do you want me to be a priest? Do you want me to be married? We should already be asking God, even when we're 6, 7, 8 years old, because guess what? God will tell us. Now, he usually doesn't tell you right away.
Yeah.
It takes a long time of discernment. And I'll tell you one last thing, Cece. In my own life, when I converted to the Catholic faith in 1988, I felt called to the priesthood. I had been a Protestant minister and I wasn't married. And so I went into formation for the priesthood, and I spent 6 years studying for the priesthood. But then I discerned that the priesthood wasn't for me. And so I decided to leave the seminary. And that's not a bad thing. If you discern that you're not called to the religious life, you may go and live there for a year or 2 years or 5 years. I have a friend who was a Carmelite for 9 years or 8 years and was about to make final vows, but it was discerned that no, this isn't for you. And so the main thing I would say to you, Cece, is it's a wonderful journey of discovery, learning what God has for you. And I discovered God was calling me to apologetics. And now that I'm married with 7 kids, I think it's been confirmed.
That's what God wanted. Cece, thank you for the call. Was that helpful to you?
Yes.
Do you?
I love nuns and I really want to be one.
How beautiful!
older.
And you have nuns there in Illinois that you know?
No.
Or you'd like to meet some, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
That would be great. I'm sure there is someone there that will help you meet some nuns, because you're right. It's easy to love nuns.
Yes.
It's pretty easy to love them.
Amen.
Cece, we've already got your address, so Marie is going to send you a book. Thank you very, very much for your call. Remember, January is Pro-Life Month, and all our pro-life books, DVDs, all the stuff is at $5 a copy. Visit the $5 pro-life category at shop.catholic.com and get your $5 pro-life materials all this month.
There's only one. Catholic Answers Live.
We need EWTN Radio for the reason that Mother Angelica founded this entire enterprise. She always saw this as a spiritual growth network. It was to be an enterprise in media that reached people in all aspects of their life. She saw this as a holistic approach to reaching the whole person in the middle of the world and bringing them truth and life.
Raymond Arroyo thinks Catholic radio is important. So should you.
A lot of people think that street evangelization involves yelling out of a bullhorn telling people that they're going to hell. Not so with St. Paul Street Evangelization. Our methods are non-confrontational and effective. We simply offer information on the Catholic faith along with rosaries, miraculous medals, and prayer. Pope Francis wrote about how beautiful it is to see street preachers joyfully bringing Jesus to every corner of the earth. Street evangelization is fun and fruitful. Join us today at streetevangelization.com.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Kids Q&A this hour. Tim Staples here with us. If you're a kid, we'd love to take your call. And we got a bunch of calls on the line, so I'm just going to start going through them. Chanel in Buffalo, New York, you are up next. Are you there, Chanel?
Yes.
Wow, you speak very clearly, Chanel. How old are you?
9.
And do you have a question that you'd like to ask?
Yes.
And is it a long question or? Okay, I'm just playing because I know you're going to keep saying yes if I ask yes or no questions. So go ahead and ask your question.
Okay. If the devil is real, why doesn't he give you nightmares? Or does God stop it?
Ah, that's a great question. Well, Chanel, the devil can give people nightmares. He has access, but only by God's permission. And this is the most important point, I think. Whenever we talk about the devil, Chanel, we always have to remember 1 John chapter 4, verse 4 in the Bible. I love that verse because it says, greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. And that's referring to the devil, right? God is infinitely greater than that, not just greater, but infinitely greater than the devil. So the devil can do absolutely nothing unless God allows him to. Now, having said that, God does sometime allow temptations and trials and tests to come into our lives, and that can include, because the devil has access to our imagination. Sometimes he can put thoughts in our head or even dreams. But I love the way you said that, Chanel. Does God stop him from giving nightmares? And the answer is yes. God stops him all the time. He would like to do a whole lot more to us, but God stops him. So God will only allow something into your life or my life if God knows that ultimately it's going to bring about a greater good. This is why St. Paul tells us in Romans chapter 8, verse 28, another really beautiful verse of Scripture, Chanel. All things work together for good for those who love God. Isn't that cool? All things work together for good. That is cool. Because God will not allow anything in your life that won't at least have the possibility of being turned to good if we trust him. So ultimately, the answer to your question is the reason the devil can't give you nightmares, unless God permits it for some greater purpose, is because God is awesome and the devil is not. Does that make sense, Chanel?
Yes.
All right. Thanks so much for your question.
And Chanel, Marie already got your address, so you can wait. And that book will be coming to you there in Buffalo, New York. Chanel, thank you for that call. Let's go to Reed in Birmingham, Alabama. Are you there with us, Reed? Hello, Reed.
Hi.
How old are you, Reed?
8.
Yep. And you live in Birmingham, Alabama?
Yes.
I've been there. I really liked it there in Birmingham, Alabama. What's your question for Tim?
If Adam and Eve didn't do the sin, would there just be peace on earth?
All right, that was just a little bit hard to hear. So just for the audience, if they couldn't make it out, if Adam and Eve didn't sin, would there be peace on earth?
Yes, there would. In fact, it is sin, according to Romans chapter 5, verse 12 in the Bible. It says, through the sin of one man, Adam, sin and death came upon all. So if Adam and Eve had not sinned, the disorder of sin would not have come into their lives, their natures would not have fallen, and they would not have communicated a fallen nature to the rest of us by way of original sin. So absolutely, there would be no suffering, there would be no sickness, and so forth. But, unfortunately, in one sense, right, Adam and Eve sinned, and yet, I want you to take this with you, Reed. We have a tradition in our church. We say it every Easter Sunday, or at the Easter Vigil anyway, on Saturday night. Oh, happy fault. Right? Wow. Why do we say that? Oh, happy fault that Adam and Eve fell, for what a glorious Savior it has wrought. Right? The amazing thing about being a Catholic Christian, Reed, is even though, we don't rejoice in sin, we don't say, oh, I'm glad Adam and Eve sinned. No, sin is evil and it's bad. But God is so awesome that as terrible as the sin of Adam and Eve was, God has used that for the occasion to bring about a so much greater good in the life, death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ that we can actually say, oh, happy fault, because look at what it has wrought in Jesus Christ. And so when we trust Him, we know that all of these evils are going to be turned around for good, and we will see glory beyond anything we can imagine if we continue to trust and obey Him.
Reed, I'm going to say thank you because we're getting short of time, and we're going to send you that book. And there's a couple callers I want to make sure I get to. Camden in Victor, Idaho. Are you there with us, Camden?
Yeah, I am.
And how old are you, Camden?
I'm 14.
Well, thank you for calling. Your question for Tim.
How do you know that God is real and the Bible is not just a made-up story?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, number one, we can know God exists just through the natural light of reason. We know, for example, that everything in existence received its existence from something or someone else. And so the source of existence is not within the things that we see around us. Everything in creation was brought about its existence by something else. Well, reason tells us, we don't even need a Bible for this, there must be a first cause of all being that didn't receive its existence from anything else or anyone else. Why? Because if it did, it wouldn't be the source of all things. We'd have to go back further. There has to be that being, which is what we call subsistent being itself, and as such, it would be infinite being. So we can know there's a God just by using our canoggins, right? We can know that there is an infinite God. But when it comes to the revelation that we have, you mentioned, not only do we know God is real, but we also know that He has revealed Himself. And we could talk a lot, but unfortunately we're running out of time, Camden, so I'll fast forward to this. we know as a historical fact, as the Catechism of the Catholic Church tells us in paragraph 653, the life, death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ is an historical fact, attested to not just by believers but unbelievers. People that thought he was a demon acknowledged he was real. Unbelievers, Roman historians, Jewish historians, we know Jesus Christ was real, performed miracles, and established a church that in turn has performed miracles in every generation, proving the veracity or the truthfulness of the message, and also confirming the reality of the Bible. As St. Augustine said it famously, I would not believe the gospel except the Catholic Church moved me. That's how we know the Bible is true as well.
Camden, stay on the line. We want to make sure we get your address. I'd like to add to your books maybe Trent Horn's Why We're Catholic. It might be helpful to you. I really apologize to Rose Staples. I didn't get to her and get her on.
Rose, I'll answer your question when I get home.
Yeah, you have an advantage, Rose. Thanks for joining us this week. Jesus Christ is the light of the nations, and we'll see you next time on Catholic Answers Live.